Welcome to 20th Century Music and Arts. This is going to be our final episode in looking at the career of Glenn Danzig. In this episode, we're going to continue to look at the music that Glenn Danzig has produced in the mid to late 90s and the millennium. But we are also going to look at some of his other artistic pursuits as well. Several viewers have pointed out that I did not mention the final Samhain album that was released in 1990 called The Final Descent. I didn't do that in the last episode, sorry for skipping that. Now, half the album was actually an overdub and remixed version of the songs that were on the Unholy Passion EP, but here Danzig plays new guitar parts. The other half were unreleased songs that were intended for a new Samhain album, but that album never happened because the band Danzig was formed. So Danzig recorded these songs with his new lineup for Danzig, and some of the tracks were recorded as late as 1990. This album actually shows the transition in sound between Samhain and Danzig, but it still has that sort of eerie, sinister Samhain atmosphere to it. Danzig and the band went into the record plant Sound Recorders between November 1991 and April 1992 to record their next album, Danzig 3, How the Gods Kill. The band really further evolved their sound here. Danzig continued to integrate more blues into the mix, along with the classic crooners like Roy Orbison and Elvis. I remember not liking this album when it came out, but over the years I've come to realize that this is probably the band's strongest album, at least of the initial lineup of Danzig. The album starts out with the dynamic and powerful Godless, which is Danzig's tirade against organized religion. This track is followed by Anywhere, where Danzig's vocals sound very close to Jim Morrison. Heavy reverb guitar and over-the-top vocals are all over the track, called Bodies. This track is followed by the absolutely fantastic title track, How the Gods Kill. The song starts with an incredible ballad, before eventually crescendoing into an absolutely epic rock song.
If you feel alive in a darkened room, if you feel
This song might contain Danzig's best vocal performance. The rocking Dirty Black Summer is next, which was apparently about Danzig's teenage memories of summer. The sinister yet catchy Left Hand Black is after that. Glenn has spoken with legendary bluesman Willie Dixon about being a guest vocalist on the song Heart of the Devil, but Dixon unfortunately passed away before that could happen. The song is Danzig playing blues at his best, and it is over the top. Sistinias is another amazing ballad, very much indebted to Roy Orbison with orchestral arrangements.
Close my soul deep inside.
The album finishes with two powerful rockers, Do You Wear the Mark and When the Dying Calls. The album really displays Danzig's vision of integrating 50s rock and roll and crooning with the blues and the evil side of metal. Videos were done for How the Gods Kill, Bodies, Sistinias, and Dirty Black Summer. The cover for the album contained artwork by Swiss visual artist H.R. Giger. The piece was created in 1976 and was called Mista und Margareta, I think I pronounced that right, and was based on the Mikhail Bulgakov novel The Master and Margarita. The band played numerous shows in 1992 with White Zombie and Caius, but they also got an opportunity to open for the Ronnie James Dio fronted Black Sabbath. Glenn was honored to be able to open for a band that had influenced so much. It also gave the band exposure to a more mainstream rock audience, though I don't know if they really knew what to do with Danzig, and the imagery that they evoked. In 1993, the band released the EP Thrall Demon Sweat Live. The first side had 3 studio tracks, and the second side contained 4 live tracks from the 1992 Halloween show the band had played at the Irvin Meadows Amphitheater in California. The songs on the first side are It's Coming Down, The Violet Fire, and a cover of the Elvis Presley classic Trouble. It's Coming Down dealt with sadomasochistic rituals, and the video was banned from MTV because it contained people engaged in all kinds of extreme bondage and other unsortly practices. The songs on the second side were live versions of Snakes of Christ, I Am I Demon, Sistinias, and Mother. A video was made for this live version of Mother, known as Mother 93, and it started actually going into heavy rotation on MTV, resulting in the song being the most popular song the band had ever released. Both Thrall Demon Sweat Live and the debut album, which contained the original version of Mother, ended up reaching gold status by 1994. A single version called Mother 94 was also released. It seemed that in the post-Nirvana world, the general audience was becoming more interested or more open to a band like Danzig. Danzig was also exploring other musical avenues. In 1990, he produced an album for the band King Horse. In 1992, he released an all-instrumental album of neoclassical synth compositions called Black Araya. He had played around with these kind of sounds since the Samhain days. He released another album in 2006 called Black Araya 2. These kind of compositions would fit well on a horror movie soundtrack. Glenn and the band would go into both the Ocean Way and Sound City studios between October 1993 and May 1994 to record their 4th album, which was untitled, but would be generally known as Danzig 4 by everyone, including the members. Danzig wanted to make use of the studio more, and so he integrated more sounds outside the conventions of the typical rock band. They brought in backwards tracks, industrial sounds, and instruments like a harmonium, a recorder, and wind chimes. The album starts with the rocking Brand New God. Little Whip starts out subdued with reverb guitar before it unleashes the rock. The sound of the band was more open and contained a lot more atmosphere. Can't Speak uses the guitar track from Let It Be Captured and plays it in reverse. The lyrics deal with someone overwhelmed with despair.
Yes, man, can't do anything I want, can't change your mind.
Danzig used a distorted vocal effects on the chorus. The epic Going Down to Die is next, which is followed by the sinister Until You Call in the Dark. Going Down to Die was apparently considered for the Natural Born Killers soundtrack, but did not make the final cut.
And I know that I'm going down to die.
The shimmering and powerful Dominion is next. The dirty blues rock of Bringer of Death follows. A noisy industrial track called Sadistical is after that. That could have come off a Nurse with Wound album. The quiet and loud contrast of Son of the Morning Star is absolutely fantastic. The Eastern influenced I Don't Mind the Pain has a unique sound to it, but it still rocks. The absolutely eerie The Soccer Song is next, and the album ends with the powerful tender ballad Let It Be Captured. Where Danzig delivers another absolutely incredible vocal performance. However, on the CD version, there's a hidden track at 66 called Invocation. This track sounds like an eerie black mass. Danzig had created another very interesting album. The inside cover showed the members in coffins with FBI agents, like from the 60s, around them. Apparently, Danzig was commenting on a rumor that he was considered a threat to President Bill Clinton. But not all was well in the Danzig camp. Chuck Biscuits was going through struggles with substance abuse, and he was not happy with the share of the royalties that he was getting. Apparently he quit, came back, and then was fired. or it could be that he just refused to sign the new contract that Glenn had wanted him to sign. Either way, he was gone. Biscuits would go on to play with Social Distortion on the tour for the album White Light, White Heat, White Trash. Biscuits was also the subject of an internet death hoax in 2009. For the tour, former Wasted Youth and Sugartooth drummer Joey Castillo was brought in. Biscuits appeared in the video for Until You Call on the Dark, but Castillo appeared in the videos for Can't Speak and I Don't Mind the Pain. The band made an appearance on the Jon Stewart Show in 1994, and they toured that year with the bands Godflesh and Typo Negative. In 1995, two up-and-coming bands opened up for Danzig, Korn and Marilyn Manson. The band also played festivals in Europe and even opened one show for Megadeth. But as the tour wound down, not everything was good again in the Danzig camp. Danzig felt that royalty payments from American records were being withheld, and he wanted to leave Rick Rubin's record company. Furthermore, Danzig would go into contract negotiations that would affect how much royalties that John Christ and Eerie Von would get. Soon Christ and Von would depart ways with Danzig, and the classic lineup would never play together again. Danzig managed to negotiate a deal with Hollywood Records, which was owned by Disney. He would produce the album on his own now that he was free from Rick Rubin. He would take his music in another direction. Danzig would go on full industrial rock for this album, and even integrate techno into the music. An early glimpse of this sound was the song Deep, which appeared on the TV show X-Files. Danzig would play bass, guitar, and keyboards on the album. Castillo played drums. He brought in Joseph Bishara on keyboards and programming, Mark Chaussee on guitars, and Josh Lazzy on bass, and Alice in Chains guitar player Jerry Cantrell also played on 3 tracks. The resulting album was Black Acid Devil, released on October 29th, 1996. The album has an industrial rock feel with Danzig's vocals being distorted, and the cover of Hand of Doom by Black Sabbath is pretty interesting. However, while Danzig is to be applauded for taking such an experimental approach, the album was the weakest released under the Danzig moniker.
I wanna bring you. I want you to feel alive.
Tommy Victor from Prong joined as a guitarist for the tour. Videos were made for Sacrifice and Serpentina. For the Halloween concert in Detroit, the price of the tickets was $6.66. However, Danzig's evil satanic imagery became known to the higher-ups at Disney, and soon the promotion for the album stopped, and Danzig's record deal was terminated. This severing of the relationship might have had to do with a cartoon in Pulse magazine that showed Danzig shaking hands with Disney CEO Michael Eisner. In the background was the entrance to Danzigland, complete with a kid in a 666 t-shirt and a vampire Mickey Mouse. Danzig would not deal with major labels again in his music career. Danzig would continue to release albums under the Danzig name, with various lineups throughout the rest of the 90s and 2000s. In 1999, he released 666 Satan's Child. This album was, it still has the industrial sound, but it's got a more thicker metal element. He would release a live album in 2001, Live on the Black Hand Side, which contained shows from 92, 1994, and 2000. In 2002, he released Danzig 777 I Luciferi, which is more of a metal sound and is less industrial than the previous 2 albums. The heaviness continues on Circle of Snakes in 2004. In 2007, The Lost Tracks of Danzig was released, which contained unreleased tracks from throughout the band's career. In 2010, Danzig brought back the more 70s rock feel that was on the first 2 albums for Death Red Sabbathoth. I hope I pronounced that right. 5 years later, in 2015, Danzig released an album of cover songs called Skeletons. The album's cover was based on Pinups by David Bowie, which was also a cover album. Covers on this album include Devil's Angels by Dave Allen and the Arrows, NIB by Black Sabbath, Rough Boy by ZZ Top, and Crying in the Rain by the Everly Brothers. Danzig would release another album of original material called Black Laden Crow in 2017, and in 2020, Danzig released an album of Elvis covers simply called Danzig Sings Elvis. In 2005, Danzig played a concert with 3 other extremely heavy bands, Shamaria, Behemoth, Himsa, and Asino. He called the concert Blackest of the Black, after the lyrics in his song Her Black Wings. In subsequent years, he has done short tours with this concept of bringing exposure to more extreme bands and providing an alternative to Ozfest. At one festival event, he even included Lucha Underground Wrestling. In 1995, after a lot of legal wranglings with Danzig over the rights to use the name, Jerry Only reformed the Misfits with his brother Doyle. They brought in a new singer, Michael Graves, and drummer Dr. Chud. Only would continue with the Misfits over the years with changing lineups and even at one time taking over vocal duties himself. The band became involved for a short time with WCW Wrestling. Doyle appeared on stage with Danzig in 2005 and did a set of Misfits covers. Danzig began doing what are called Danzig Legacy Tours, where he would have sets by his band Danzig, Sam Hain, and the show finisher would be a set of Misfits songs with Doyle participating. But eventually, in 2016, Danzig, Doyle, and Jerry Only did tours as the original Misfits. This was the band that could not get a record deal in 1978, and now they were selling out stadiums. People were ecstatic to see the original Misfits, and it was very powerful to see that the band was finally getting all this recognition that they deserved. Now, Danzig's pursuits have not only been in the world of music. He started his own comic book company, Verotic, kind of a merger of the word violence and erotica. Now, a lifelong comic book fan, Danzig wanted to bring out comics that were more extreme in nature. And the material certainly was. In fact, one comic store in Oklahoma was charged with publishing obscene material for selling Verotic Anthology number 4. And how extreme was this material? Well, let's just say when Grub Girl, one of the titles, was created as a movie in 2006, it had to be done as an adult XXX movie. Now, Danzig himself was also getting interested in film. In 1998, he had a small role as Samael, the fallen angel, in the film Prophecy 2, starring Christopher Walken.
Time, Daniel. Nice to see you again.
He was apparently approached for casting in the X-Men movie in 2000, but he was unable to take the part due to scheduling conflicts. He appeared as himself on the animated series Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and he did a hilarious appearance on the TV show Portlandia.
That's junk.
Hey, where are you from?
I'm from Romania.
Oh, Romania. Wow.
You look hot.
Yeah, I'm really baking. My abdomen area is like really, really sweating. There's heat coming out of my neck.
Come. Come.
My name is Vince, by the way.
I am Radu.
Dude, it's great to meet you.
My friend, you need a beach outfit.
I just don't know what someone of my look wears here.
But the beach, it has its own expression, its own style. I have been collecting all these years. Let me share with you what I have found. Are you familiar with Billy Bong?
But Glenn actually got a chance to direct his own horror film, Verotica, in 2019. It was an anthology-style film in the vein of the British film company Amicus. There are 3 segments: the albino spider of Dajet, about a spider monster that kills sex workers; Change of Face, about a sex worker that collects human faces; and Drokija, Contesta of Blood, who is a Countess Bathory-like character that drinks the blood of virgins. The movie ended up being more of a comedy, not intentionally, than a horror, but it has that fun B-movie feel. This was followed up in 2021 with Death Rider in the House of Vampires, a spaghetti western vampire movie starring Julian Sands, Devon Sawa, Kim Director, Eli Roth, and Danny Trejo. Danzig wants to continue exploring his love for B horror films. Glenn Danzig might be a controversial figure, but in many ways he represents the best aspects of the do-it-yourself ethic. Starting way back in the 70s, he's continued to do art on his own terms, and at 69 years old, he shows no signs of slowing down. Like him or hate him, Danzig is someone who had his own vision and kept to it, and that approach is what makes him a unique artist. Thank you for watching 20th Century Music and Arts, and do you have a favorite song that Danzig has ever made in his career? Thank you.